Hi everyone, I am Vismaya Rubin, teacher, speaker, best-selling author, but you know my favorite role is that of a gratitude gangster. What? So I wanted to share with you how the term gratitude gangster came about. Before I do, let me backtrack a little bit. So I was a high school teacher in Miami, Florida for 20 years, and I had my ninth grade students keeping gratitude charts. Well, if you know ninth graders, tell a ninth grader that they're going to keep a gratitude chart. Here were some of the responses I got. Miss, you don't know my life. Are you crazy? This is ridiculous. I'm not doing it. I'm going to make it up. And I said, okay, make it up. That's perfect. That's fine. No problem. I said, and you are going to do it. So, of course, they begrudgingly, every month turned in their chart. And what started to happen was by November, there were little notes on their chart saying, thank you so much for making us do this. And then fast forward a little bit, there were, more notes. And then by the end of the year, the kids some of them were excited to do it. And I remember this little girl ran up to me, Miss, I'm so excited to give you my gratitude chart. And I'm like, baby, what happened? And she says, I realized, she goes, I spend so much time with my family, and I'm so lucky that I get to do that. And another little girl, said to me, you know what I realized, Miss? She goes, I realized that when I'm feeling bad, I get to go out and do something nice for somebody, and I start to feel better. So they started to notice these things about themselves. And one little girl says, Miss, I started to realize how important I was and that I mattered. So they saw shifts in their life, and the only thing that changed was their perspective. So fast forward, I was my last year teaching, and my kids were sitting in a circle, and we had read these articles on kids who were in gangs and why they got out of gangs. And it was really interesting. And I said, I don't understand why people would be in gangs. And I knew I was asking a question that would get a response. So I will never forget this day. Alex looks at me and he says, Miss, we're in gangs. I'm like, oh, Lord. I said, really? He says, yeah, man. He goes, we're gratitude gangsters. What? So he starts going on, and he's like, yeah, we walk around and tell people, I like your shirt and I like your shoes. And then William chimes in and goes, yeah, and we tell people, I like your hat and I like your belt. And we walk around and we give hugs. And I'm like, my heart is swelling, and I could feel the tears coming. I said, really? And Alex looks at me and goes, yeah, man. He goes, those guns, the ones that pop out with the flag? I'm like, no guns. He's like, the ones that say thank you on the flag? He goes, that's what we carry around. And what I realized in that moment was that these youngsters understood, they were 15, they were actually 15 years old. They understood the power of gratitude, and they got it. So a gratitude gangster, that term was coined by my 10th graders, and the definition is what I created. So a gratitude gangster is a person who is skilled in the art of appreciation, who lives life to the fullest, and who finds magic even in life's challenges. And when I say gratitude gangster, you're supposed to go, what? So I welcome you to this live webinar. I will share with you in a bit why there are no people on the webinar, but I'll get to that in a minute. So thank you for being here. I know that there are many things you could be doing tonight, but you chose to be here. And if you're listening to the replay, thank you for watching the replay, because again, there are many things you could be doing, but you're choosing to take your time to watch this, and I'm very grateful. So thank you for that. All right, so a couple of questions. Do you ever feel tired and overwhelmed? Do you ever feel like there has to be more to life than what you're experiencing? And do you ever wonder why the smallest incident can throw you off your day? You know those people that you see and they're always happy and joyful no matter what, and you think to yourself, you go, I don't get it, man. Something happens and my whole day is like, what? Right? And these people, doesn't matter what happens to them, they're always smiling and joyful and cheerful and happy, but you're not able to vibe the same way. Well, we're going to look at that. So let's keep going. So what is gratitude? And this definition was written by Dr. Robert Emmons. He is one of the leading researchers on gratitude. And he says that it's a two-part process, that gratitude is about acknowledging that we received something good, and then recognizing that that source of good lies partially outside of ourselves. And I think we need to add something to that definition, and we need to add in there is that we also need to recognize and acknowledge that we do good things and that we are the source of that good. I think that it's really powerful and important to start to pay attention to what you do well on a regular basis and write it down. Start to acknowledge the great things that you do and write them down. And we'll get to that in a moment. So gratitude, is synonym for gratitude is appreciation. Some people would say appreciation has a deeper meaning. That's okay. But for me, they're synonymous. And think about this. You put money in the bank, what do you hope happens? We hope that it appreciates. We buy a house because we want to have a place for our family to live that's safe, that's beautiful. And we hope that the value of that appreciates. It's the same thing in your relationships. When you love on your people, when you're pay attention to all the good, wonderful things they do, what happens? That relationship grows and it expands and it gets better and juicier, right? So the idea is that when we practice gratitude, all the things that we're noticing start to expand and get bigger. So grateful people are happier, and happier people are more productive and have greater relationships. And what's really important to understand is that people who are happy because they practice gratitude. It's not the other way around. It's not that happy people practice gratitude. It's that gratitude is what creates happiness in people. And I think that's such a powerful thing to understand. And there's research that shows that when you're happier, you are more productive. And when you're more productive, again, it's a cycle. When you're more productive, you're happier. And then again, like we shared before, is that when you practice gratitude, you have these great, juicy, delicious relationships. So gratitude is like a muscle. Like, look at this lady here. She's super strong. And if you want it to get stronger, you need to exercise it. And you do that by having a simple yet consistent gratitude practice. So there's a couple words there that are super important. Simple, consistent, gratitude practice. Same thing. If I want to go build my muscles, right? I can talk about it all day long. I could watch YouTube videos. I could read about it. But if I'm not hitting the gym and picking up those dumbbells or doing the machines, my muscles aren't going to get any bigger. Same thing with your gratitude muscle. If you want it to be bigger, you need to practice gratitude. And we'll get there also in a second. So we've heard this saying said so many times in so many different ways: where your focus goes, energy flows. So the question for you is, where is your focus going? And you'll notice that by looking at where your energy is flowing. So we'll take a look at that in a second. But here's a way you can tell where your energy is going or where your focus is going. If you have a desire for a new car, right? So pay attention to, say, I want a green Jeep. And my yoga teacher has a green Jeep. So when I started to notice that was what he was in, it was very interesting to me because everywhere I went, I started to see green Jeeps. So find a car that you want and a color that you want and say, this is what I want to focus on, and notice how many times you see that car in the next few days. It's mind-blowing. So where your focus goes, energy flows. So I'm going to tell you a little story. If you're like me, you wake up in the morning and your cup of coffee, your morning coffee is like religious, right? So imagine you have this cup of coffee that is the perfect temperature, the right amount of cream, the right amount of sugar. You have that cup of coffee and it's perfect. You go to the office and you're walking in the hallway and somebody bumps you and your coffee spills. And most of you, and if I said to you what happened, most of you would go, man, you may not say this out loud, but you're thinking, that jerk bumped me and my whole coffee went everywhere. I can't believe it. He wasn't watching where he was going, and yada, yada, yada. Well, that's the wrong answer. And some of you are going, what? What do you mean? He bumped me. I can't believe that happened. You're right. That is kind of crappy that happened. But you see, your coffee spilled because there was coffee in your cup. Had there been tea in your cup, your tea would have spilled. Whatever is in that cup is what spills out. And that cup is your life. That cup is a metaphor for your life. So my question to you is, what's in your cup? Because when life comes along and it's going to shake you up, which it's going to do, you're right? We have things that happen to us. People get sick, they die, relationships break up, things happen. Whatever is inside of your cup, that's what spills out. That's a really powerful way to look at life, right? So is your cup filled with joy and gratitude and love and happiness? Or Is it filled with anger and bitterness and frustration and sadness and resentment? You get to choose. But how do we do that, Vismaya, right? Because it's not always easy to choose to be grateful. We hear all the time that happiness is a choice, and I believe that it is. But how do we get to that on a regular basis? So that's my mother. What you don't know is that my mother is in a wheelchair. You don't see it there because that's not in the picture. So Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays, and I'm going to take you back, way back to 2012. And I remember sitting at my computer the day before Thanksgiving and thinking to myself, oh, you have to write a gratitude post, you're a gratitude gangster, you need to, get something out there that's wonderful, that makes people think about how lucky they are and how grateful they are and all the things that are going on in their life. But here's the backstory. So my parents got divorced when I was 3. So Thanksgiving and holidays in general were always wonderful and stressful for me because I had to spend time with one side and then I had to go to the other side. So I had Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday, ready to go. I knew it I had it down to a science. So in the morning, I was going to have a Thanksgiving breakfast with my mother and her best friend. We were going to have a lovely lunch and then, or like a brunch. And then I was going to leave there, go down to Kendall to my uncle's house. And I was going to have a Thanksgiving time with him and my ex-stepdad and my cousins and my aunt. And then I was going to leave there and going to go to my dad's house and hang out with my dad and my stepmom and my brothers and my nephews. I know, I had it down to a science. And then what happened is I get a call that my mother was in the hospital. She had a stroke. And I'm like, oh my God. And here's what I need to share with you is that I was so angry. I was angry, I was sad, I was frustrated because I wasn't sure how I was going to make all of it happen. I wasn't sure how I was going to be able to do everything that I wanted to do because I really wanted to be in all 3 places. And I wanted to make sure I took care of my mother who was in the hospital. So I was really upset, to be quite honest with you. I was not feeling very grateful at that moment, but I was like, you need to sit down because you're writing, you're the gratitude gangster. You need to write a gratitude post. And then I was like, but you can't write one because you're upset and you're angry. And how do you tap into gratitude when you're angry? And here's not, on and on and on. And I sat there for quite a few minutes and finally I stopped. And I made myself, I silenced myself and I silenced those voices that were going back and forth. And I sat down and I started to write down a list and it just started to come out naturally. And what I realized is that there were so many beautiful things that happened to me on a regular basis. I just needed to tap into them. So my uncle, every Friday night he would send me and one of my cousins, he would send us a little note sharing with us a ridiculous joke or some useless information I didn't know, but it was always something that warmed my heart. And it was always like what I got from that was his way of saying, I love you. Or my dad, who I just learned how to text, would send me a text message out of the blue saying, I love you, thinking about you. And those were really cool things. And I started to come up with this list really quickly. But I was angry and I was frustrated and I felt like a fraud because I said, how can I call myself a gratitude gangster and be so frustrated and so upset and yet feel all this gratitude? So I was in a bit of a turmoil for a while, and of course I was doing gratitude research and tapping in and looking and reading things. And then I came across this quote and it shifted everything in my perspective, my life. It said, gratitude is an effortful state to create and maintain. It is not for the intellectually lethargic. So if you're going to stand at the bottom of that mountain and try to be grateful when you have to go up and go down, you're not going to do it. It's not something that you can be lazy about. It's an effortful state to create and maintain. It is not for the intellectually lethargic. And what that did is it gave me permission to realize that there are times that I'm just going to feel, right? And I didn't feel bad anymore feeling bad. I realized that it was okay for me to feel the way I was feeling. It was perfectly normal, and I can still practice gratitude. But I get to do the work. So that is one of my favorite gratitude quotes because it absolutely changed, my perspective on things. So I'm going to bust a myth for you right now because I'm like a myth buster, right? So one of the reasons I'm doing this webinar is because at the end of it, I'm going to invite you to do a 5-week class. I'm going to throw that out right now. And one of the things we're going to do in week 1 is I'm going to bust a bunch of myths about gratitude, because I think there's power in understanding that myth number 1 that's busted is that being grateful is easy. Not true. We're busting that myth. It's not always easy to be grateful. It takes work. It takes a conscious effort to really tap into those moments that work for you. Is it easier as time goes? Yeah, because like anything else, when I go to the gym and I work out my muscles, right? It gets easier as time goes on. Well, when you practice gratitude, when life is grand, you're able to tap into those moments and pull yourself out of those moments that feel mucky and messy much quicker, because you have that tool, you have that muscle already built. So myth number 1, that being grateful is easy. No, 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 not true, my friends, right? So what is one thing that I can give you, one exercise that I can give you to make it a little bit easier? And this is a brilliant exercise. So if you have a gratitude practice already, try it. If you don't have a gratitude practice, this is a great way to start. So what you're going to do is we all walk around every day with our cell phones. So you're going to set your alarm to go off every few hours. When that alarm goes off, you're going to pause, you're going to breathe, and you're going to reflect. And what I want you to take a look at or think about, what are your gratitude wins? Now, these are just ideas. These are just things that you can use. It's what I do, what I go back to, and I say, what are my gratitude wins? Who or what made a difference for me? What did I do for myself, or what did I do for somebody else? Did I learn something new? Did I do something new? What made me smile or laugh till my sides hurt, right? And the other thing you might want to add on there is, did I read something that was fabulous? Was there a quote that I heard? What is something that inspired me today, that made me feel good? And jot it down. And again, these are just guidelines. These are just ways to think about it. And the power here is this. Number 1, write it down. Number 2, think about things, excuse me, that are unique to the day. Because that's really where the power comes in. When we find things that are unique to the day versus waking up and saying, oh, I love my husband, or I love my wife, or I have the best kids. That's awesome. That's wonderful. But what specifically about that person why are you commenting on them today? So maybe your husband woke up in the morning before you did and he made the kids lunches. So that's pretty cool, right? So if that's normally your job, you say, even if it's not, you're like, wow, I'm really grateful that I have this husband who made the kids lunch today. That's something unique to the day if it doesn't happen all the time. And then the other really beautiful thing is that when you write these things down, you have a place to go back and look at them. So I was maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was going through my gratitude journal, and there was an entry in there from 2013. And that was the year that my aunt had died. Well, let me share with you 2013. So 2013, my dad had part of his lung removed on Valentine's Day. 2 days later, my cousin's husband was killed. 3 weeks later, my aunt went into the hospital, and we knew she wasn't coming out. And then 3 weeks after that, my mother had a stroke. And if I tell you, that was a crazy year, but really the only thing that I kept tapping into is, even though I was experiencing sadness, which I'll share with you after, I was tapping into the things that I was grateful for. So when my aunt was sick, I spent a lot of time with my aunt and my uncle because I adored them both. Now, they had been high school sweethearts. It was almost their 40th anniversary. They were like true loves to the truest definition. Like if you had true loves in the dictionary, they would be there. So I come home from work one day, and I had a rental house, and then my tenants had just moved out, and they trashed the place, and my stepdad was there, and he was working on it. So I went after work, and I was gonna to do some work, and I walk in, and my uncle is there on a 6-foot ladder. It was probably even taller because my ceilings were huge, and he's painting, and I'm thinking to myself, what is he doing? Mind you, a little side note is my uncle had Parkinson's, so he did not need to be on a 6-foot ladder. And I said, Brucey, what are you doing? And he says, what does it look like I'm doing? I'm painting your ceilings or your walls. I'm like, you can't be on the ladder. And he looks at me and says, listen, for the past 6 months, you have been there for me. Please allow me to give back to you. I forgot about that moment until I went back and I read it in my journal. And when I wrote it in my journal, I must have written it in the way that I'm sharing with you to write it, because every time I go back and read it, I still feel the same emotion that I felt the day that it happened. I'm able to relive that feeling. And that's the other powerful thing, is that when you're writing these things down, feel when you're writing it, feel it again. So you now have a bonus plan. You have all of your gratitude wins in one place. You have them written down so they serve as a memory, and you get to write them in such a way that you're feeling them. Now, I understand if this is too much because you're just starting a practice, that's okay. Do what you can do. But I'm so grateful that I had written that down, because now I have that memory with me, etched in my muscle memory, my gratitude muscle memory forever. And it was just such a powerful moment for me. So reflect on your gratitude wins. All right, so we're gonna have a little fun here. So when your alarm clock goes off in the morning, do you look like him? Or do you look like this guy? Right? So I can't see you, obviously, because this is a recording, so you can tell the truth. How do you get to this? Or this? Or this? And you get to that by starting with this. So Pam Grout says that what she recommends, or she tells people to do, is say something as simple as, today is going to be a magical day. My word is magical, fill in your word. Today is going to be a great day. Today is going to be a fantastic day. Today is going to be a wonderful day. Or you could say, today is a great day to have a great day. And what does that do? That sets the tone. You're telling your subconscious mind that I want today to be a great day. I want today to be magical. I want today to be wonderful, right? So you're telling your brain how you expect and how you want the day to go. And that's really powerful, because our words matter. Our thoughts matter. Think about this. So if you're somebody who wakes up in the morning and stubs your toe, and then you say to yourself, oh, today's gonna be the worst day ever. I woke up, I stubbed my toe. Or if you stubbed your toe, and let's take it a step further, spilled your coffee and hit every traffic light. Oh, today is the worst day ever. Or what if you said, today started off really bad, but it can only get better from here? That's a totally different vibration than, oh my God, today is going to be the worst day. Do you know how my day started? Right? So we get to choose, and the power is in our thoughts and in what we say. So you might have seen this before, but it's really, I think, an important thing to share with you today. So watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become character. And watch your character, it becomes your destiny. So we don't think sometimes that those things that we think have that much power. And how do we change the way we think? We start by, number one, practicing gratitude. And number two, by declaring every single morning how we want the day to go. Because if we declare in the morning that I want today to be a magical day, we've already set the tone. That's our first thought. And those are the words that we speak, right? So that's really powerful. It's very simple, but it's very powerful. I know some of you are going, great, Vismaya, but you don't know what's going on in my life. You're right, I don't. But go back to my 2013, when I had all of those people sick, when I lost 2 people that I loved. That was a challenging year. That was a very challenging year. And in spite of all of that, I still was able to tap into the most beautiful, the most delicious moments of gratitude. And it happened because I had been practicing gratitude at that point for a couple of years and really consciously looking for things to be grateful for. Because it's no joke, when I have that many people in the hospital dying or getting sick, it wasn't a joke. It was a crazy, crazy year. But again, when my cousin's husband died, I got a call on a Saturday, and on a Sunday I was in Atlanta. And what's so powerful about that, or is as sad as it was, I was grateful for the fact that I had money in the bank, that I could buy a plane ticket. I could take the time off work to go to Atlanta. You know, I was able to do the things that my cousin couldn't do because I was there to be of service. As silly as it sounds, I got to roll the corned beef up because God forbid my grandmother looks down and sees that the corned beef was thrown on a platter. I got to make it pretty so that when people came over to pay their respects, I was able to be of service. And every time something happened, there was another moment of gratitude for me. It was another gratitude win. And I only was able to do that because I had been tapping into gratitude when life was good. So you're right. I don't know your life, and I know this stuff works. But again, you get to make it work. If you're going to go to the gym and lift your weights, that's when you get big muscles. You want a big gratitude muscle. Simple, consistent practice. And I just gave you 2 ways. 1, stop or pause, breathe, reflect, and then every day wake up and say to yourself, today is a great day to have a great day. So why do we do this? And it's very simple. When we have practices in place, we can stop ourselves from going down the rabbit hole. Now, let's be clear. I will never be one to tell you that you're never going to go down the rabbit hole, because there are times that I go down the rabbit hole. But here's the catch. Because I have practices in place, I'm able to pick myself up a whole lot faster. A couple of weeks ago, I remember I woke up and today is going to be a magical day. And I was shouting it all over and thinking it to myself and saying it time and time again. And then something happened, right? I was left out of something that I thought I should have been part of, and I wasn't, and my feelings got hurt. And it was interesting because there were a couple of practices I had put in place. I kept saying to myself, today is going to be a great day. Today is going to be a great day. The smile of today is a great day. You feeling the way you're feeling because somebody left you out is not cutting it for you. And then I kept asking myself, what happened and what are you making it mean? What happened and what are you making it mean? What happened and what are you making it mean? And those were really powerful conversations that gave me the ability to call the person that had hurt my feelings and said, hey, listen, I want you to know that this hurt my feelings. And we had a conversation about it and it was over. But had I not been in that space of, I don't want to feel this yuckiness, I don't want to feel the way I'm feeling, I would have stayed there all day long and all week long. And it could have stewed, right? And it could have created something awful. I want to be very clear on something. So one of my favorite positive psychologists is Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, and he was being interviewed, and the person who interviewed him said, don't you ever get upset or frustrated? He's like, I'm human. And he says, there are only 2 types of people in the world who never experience negative emotions. Do you know who they are? And she thought about it for a minute, and she's like, she didn't know. And he said, dead people and psychopaths. So here's what I want you to know is that if you ever experience anger, sadness, frustration, any of that, I want you to celebrate. 1, you are not dead. And 2, you're not a psychopath. What? So I'm making a joke of it, but I'm not at the same time, because to believe that, we're going to wake up and everything is going to be glorious all the time because we practice gratitude, I think is an untruth. That's one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of this whole idea of an attitude of gratitude, because for me, it implies that you wake up and somebody's going to come and sprinkle, fairy dust on you and glitter and unicorns and everything is going to be perfect. And you're never going to go through trials and tribulations. And that's not what's so for me. What's so is that when I have simple, consistent practices in place, that's when I'm able to pull myself out of whatever's happening, whatever life throws at me, and create something magical out of it and create something different for myself. So the idea of attitude of gratitude is not something you'll ever hear me say. I talk about a gratitude practice. And when we're in this 5-week class, because this is just a sample, it's like a taster, right? And in this 5-week class, we're going to really do some exploration into how we can have practices in place so that when we're in that space of, oh my God, I stubbed my toe, I know that I can remind myself, okay, I can only go up from here. Watch my thoughts. Watch your thoughts, Vismaya. Or, oh my God, this is going to be the worst day ever. Remember, tomorrow, your goal is to go out and set an intention of your favorite car. Say, I'm going to see my favorite car, and watch how many of your favorite cars you see. So if it's I love to play this challenge where I'm going to find Bentleys. So when I'm consciously looking for Bentleys, I find them everywhere. So consciously look for things that you put it into your mind, what it is that your favorite car, and watch how many you see. It's the same thing. It's that simple that when we declare that today is going to be the worst day ever, we're going to find the evidence to show us that today is going to be the worst day ever. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do that? So declare that today is going to be the best day ever. And find evidence for that. You stub your toe, you spill your coffee, so what? So I was in Asheville at the beginning of the year, and I had one of those moments where I get to Asheville, I get to my Airbnb, I get out of the car, I go to lock my car, my clicker stops working, which is not a huge deal because I could lock the car. But if you ever seen my car, the Gratitude Mobile, excuse me, I have all my gratitude swag in there, and I had a big show coming up, so I was extra packed. I'm like, great, no alarm. Okay. So I go to my workshop the next day, or the event that I was at, and then on Friday night, I come back from my workshop. I locked myself out of my Airbnb. I go to plug in at night, and this was a great day. So I plug in at night for my phone to charge my phone. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with these vicious leg cramps. I look over at my phone. My phone is not charged at all. I'm about to freak out, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Because when I'm in a convention, my phone is how I charge people for my gratitude swag. So now I have no phone. I have cramps. I had already gotten in the house, obviously, because I was already asleep. So I wake up the next day, and I could hear myself at night going, oh my God, why me? And then I thought to myself, I said, Vismaya, what do you mean, why me? It happened because it happened. The universe is not out to get you. The universe is not there to harm you. There's nobody there going, oh my God, pick on her today. Stuff happens because stuff happens. Now I get to choose how I deal with it. And the minute I said that, I was like, all right, so I'll figure it out. I'll plug my phone in when I get to the workshop because I had a charger there. I will, I'll drink more water the next day. I'll figure something out because things happen because they happen. So I go to the workshop the next day, and I say to one of the vendors, I'm like, oh my God, last night I woke up and I had the worst leg cramps ever. He said, yellow mustard. What? I'm telling you, Vismaya, go take yellow mustard. Okay. So I go to the bar because we were at a hotel. I went to the bar and I said, listen, I would like some yellow mustard. And she's like, well, would you like ketchup and mayonnaise too? And I'm like, no, somebody told me that, yellow mustard is good for leg cramps and I need it because my legs cramp. She goes, oh my God, I heard the same thing. So there was this guy at the bar, and he looks at me, and he made some awful comment, like off the wall comment, and I looked at him, and I was like, I responded, and we started this great conversation. And the next day we ended up going, he took me around Asheville, and he took me to these places that I had never been before. But my point is that had I stayed in the space of, oh my God, today is going to be the worst day of my life, because I woke up at 3 a.m, and then I realized that my phone wasn't charged. And not only is that how I charge people, it was also my alarm clock. I'm like, what if I oversleep? And I could have gone down that rabbit hole, right? But I stopped myself. I said, it is what it is. You'll make it. You'll be okay. The universe is not out to get you. That's the contrary. The universe always has my back. And that's one of my mantras. So we have to have practices in place to stop us from that. So like I said, I had a magical day in Asheville that I would not have had I not had the leg cramps. Because I would not have gone to the bar to ask for mustard, and my friend would not have made that ridiculous comment. And I'm telling you, it was truly one of the most fabulous days. It was spectacular. So I'm grateful for the fact that everything happened the way it happened, but sometimes you have to kind of back out to get that perspective. You have to have the practices in place. You have to have your mantras in place. Like whenever I'm in a crazy space, I always say, the universe has my back. The universe has my back. And it's gotten to the point where I can be in a crazy space, and one of my friends will look at me and say, Vismaya, things always work out for you, because I have said that enough times that now the people in my community will say that back to me. So when you have, again, those things that you can pull out of that toolbox and use them, you're not going down that rabbit hole. Or if you start to go down, we can pull you out a whole lot faster. You can pull yourself out a whole lot faster. And that's where the power is. So we've already talked about, pausing, breathing, reflecting, and writing things down. We've talked about the power of starting your day off with these beautiful, magical words. And now here's another thing I wanted to share with you. How's another way that you can fill your cup, your cup of life, with gratitude and joy and juiciness? And that is by allowing others to contribute to you. If I said to you, it's better to give than, you would all know it's better to give than receive. We've been taught that our entire lives. It is a bunch of BS. I think it's more powerful to say it's better to give and receive. Now, I don't have time in this webinar right now to go into it, but in the 5-week class, we're going to spend a whole week talking about the power of giving and receiving, and why people are such great givers and what's the energy behind it, and then why people are so bad at receiving, right? So I love this meme because it says, I get awkward when somebody compliments me and I don't know what to say. So somebody looks at you and goes, you look so pretty. Me? Happy birthday. Like, we get weird about it. Just on Friday, I went to a workshop. I was speaking at a networking event, and one of the people who was there said to another woman, she goes, oh my God, you look so pretty today. I love your dress. And the woman looks at her and says, oh my God, it was the only thing that was clean in my closet. And I was like, because I knew we were going to talk about this. But really, the energy of giving and receiving is the same energy, right? And when you're giving somebody a gift, do you want them to push back and go, oh, no, you want them to open their hands and take it and get excited, because that's what you're giving them. But we also get to do that for others. We also get to give the gift of giving to somebody else, and we do that by receiving. So if somebody gives you a compliment, all you're going to do, and it doesn't matter what you think. So if somebody says, wow, you look really beautiful today, and it does not matter that you walked out of the house feeling like a 395-year-old, turtle, you're going to just look at them and say, thank you. It doesn't matter how you felt. Not that your opinion of yourself doesn't matter, but I'm saying if somebody compliments you, you get to receive it. In the gratitude movement, we were talking a few months ago, and I said, believe the nice things people say about you. And think about it for a second. If I were to insult you, that would play in your head all day long. And can you believe she said it? And blah, 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 blah. And it would be like a broken record. But why is it not, when others give us a compliment, why is that not the broken record? Why is it that we're not able to receive it? We don't even receive it. We take the record off and then we break it and we throw it out because we don't want to be a part of it. So allow others to contribute to you. So the next time somebody gives you a compliment or says something lovely to you or does something nice for you, the only thing you're allowed to do is open your arms, and as silly as it sounds, and hold your chest up and take a deep breath and look that person in the eye and say, thank you. And that's it. Nothing else. You get to receive. So the last thing I want to say on this is that giving is beautiful if it's given in the right energy. And not every time somebody is giving, they're doing it with the energy of, oh, I just want to give back to somebody. They do it because there's something else missing. And we'll talk about that. And we'll get a very clear understanding of why is it that we give and why is it that we receive. Because we really want to be great at both. We want to be stellar givers and we want to be stellar receivers, because there's a lot of energy there. So allow others to contribute to you. So I posted this on social media the other day, and the question was, true or false, happy people have higher incomes or higher intellect than most? So I asked people, what are their thoughts? And the answer is false, right? So happiness is less connected to income. Now, let me say it this way. So there is research that shows that people obviously want to make more money. So at $75,000, if it's just based on money, if you made $150,000, it doesn't make you any happier than somebody who made $75,000. If you make $80,000, so the cutoff is about $75,000 to $80,000 if we're talking about happiness being based on income. And it's definitely not based on intellect. Happier people, what do? They express gratitude. Gratitude, I've also heard people say, well, are grateful people happier, or are happier people more grateful? And the truth is this, is that people who practice gratitude, this is what research shows, are happier. So happier people learn how to savor things, right? We appreciate things. Happier people forgive others. They show kindness. They get regular good sleep. They have a great sex life, a healthy sex life. And then they practice positive thinking. So happier people, and I love the first one, is that they express gratitude. And that's what we're talking about here. About the ability to tap into what works in our life because we express our gratitude. And because we're growing that muscle, we're going back to that, we're growing that muscle. So the answer for this one was false. So let's recap. The first thing is that when we have an action plan in place, we pull ourselves out of that downward spiral, we're out of that rabbit hole, and we're able to tap into what works in our life and really tap into the deliciousness. And how do you do that? You wake up each morning and you declare, today is going to be a magical day. If magic isn't your word, pick the word that serves you. Look for your gratitude wins. Again, throughout the day, take your cell phone, set the alarm to go off. And when that alarm goes off, you're going to pause, you're going to take a deep breath, and you're going to reflect on the things that made you smile and felt good, and make sure you include the things that you did well and write them down. And when you're writing them down, write them down in such a way that you're feeling that emotion again. And then the last thing that we talked about is allowing others to contribute to you. So when somebody gives you a compliment, when they want to help you, you just say, thank you. And you smile. That was my uncle. My uncle was on a 6-foot ladder and I was having a heart attack. It was probably like a 10 or 12-foot ladder. And I was having a heart attack because he had Parkinson's. And what I learned to do after a while is just say, thank you. Because that was his way of giving back to me. All right. So I told you that I was going to share with you about our 5-week Kickoff 2020 in gratitude. And I know that it's happening in March, but that's okay because March is still the beginning of 2020. So it will be a 5-week class every Monday in the month of March. And the idea is that we get to learn simple, proven techniques to create a life you love and are inspired to share. Because when you feel good, other people feel good. When you're able to tap into what makes you happy and you're spreading that happiness and joy to other people, they feel good. There's a saying in the Talmud that says that when I impact a life, I impact a generation. So if I harm somebody, I'm harming a generation. But if I'm helping somebody, I'm also helping a generation. So why not take what we're learning and why not take these pieces of information and share them with other people? And I wanted to, I have one more story that I want to share with you, and it really taps into that idea of we don't know the power of the things that we do and the words we use and the actions that we take. And the ability to tap into this, the power that it has for the people around us. So Sean Acor is a positive psychologist, and he had a client who was a franchise owner that happened to sell all his franchises, and now he was home. He didn't have anything to do, and his wife said to him, he realized he was getting depressed, and his wife said, honey, we're going for a walk. Okay. So he went for a walk, and she says, honey, we're going to talk about the things we're grateful for. He was like, what? So he gets back and he tells Sean, he's like, I'm overweight. I've been really stagnant. I haven't been moving a lot because I've been, working all the time and not exercising and eating fast food. And he says, and that was challenging. He says, but the walk itself is physically challenging. He goes, but I got to tell you, the the talking about what I'm grateful for, that was even worse. That was even harder. Okay. The next day, the wife wakes up, honey, we're going for a walk and we're going to talk about what we're grateful for. Fast forward, they do this a few times a week. And he starts to feel better. And he says to his honey, he says, honey, we need to bring this to the kids. All right. So at home that night, they sit down for dinner and they have a teen daughter and they have a daughter who's, a little one. So the little one is gung-ho, ready, excited to practice gratitude and share her highs and her lows and all the great things that happen. And of course, the teenager is like any teenager. They know everything. So a week later or a couple weeks later, the father gets a call from a parent of his daughter's friend. And he's like, oh God. So this dad calls the guy who owns the franchise and says, do you know what your daughter did? And he's like, oh my God, this guy is thinking sex, drugs, boys, what happened? And this guy's like, calm down, none of that. And he says, so your daughter had all the girls sitting in a circle. Because the girls started being like really catty with each other and really unkind. And he says, your daughter made every one of them go around the circle and say what they loved about each other. Your daughter made everybody realize how grateful they were to be in this circle of friends. And the guy is like, oh my God. So not only are you doing this for yourself, but your kids and your grandkids and your nieces and your nephews and the people that you work with, they get to see how you show up, and your actions teach children how to behave. So if you're in that space of life sucks, nothing works, blah, 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 that's what your kids get to see. But if you're in the space that life is great and life is wonderful and juicy and delicious, that's what you're teaching your children as well. And again, when you're in that downward spiral, when you come out of it, you're showing your kids that when life is tough, I have the tools to pull out of it, and I'm going to share them with you. So that's really the power of this Kickoff 2020 in gratitude, is that we're going to learn simple, proven techniques so that you get to create this life that you love and you're inspired to share. We also get to turn our oh no's into oh yeses. So if we wake up in the morning and we're like, we get to wake up and tap into, oh yeah. And how do we do that? We talked about a few ways, like waking up and saying, today is going to be a magical day. And then also we get to recognize and receive the gifts that show up on a regular basis. And that's also something that's very powerful. We get to say yes to everything that comes our way. Another thing, and this is one of my favorite things about this practice, is that we get to uncover and rediscover the gifts that you already have in your life. I shared with you about the little girl who came up to me and said, Miss, I realized that I spend so much time with my family and I love these people. So nothing new happened in her life, but what happened is that she got to rediscover the gift that she had already been given. And that was from a 15-year-old, right? So imagine what you're able to do with the knowledge that you already have when you start to uncover and you start to use some of these techniques. And you learn how to keep going when the going gets tough. You learn how to find the magic in challenging moments. You learn how to find the deliciousness when life feels like it's not giving you anything to feel delicious about. You get to be a gratitude gangster. So I'll give you how we break it down. Like I said, week 1 is gratitude myth debunked. We already talked about one, that it's easy to be grateful. We already know that that's not true. It's easy when times are great, but it's not as easy when times are challenging. And that's what happens. The more we practice, the easier it gets when life is challenging. Week 2, your language affects your life. We talked about that. When I wake up in the morning and I stub my toe, do I say, oh my God, the whole day is horrible? Or do I say, things can only get better from here, right? Week 3 is all about the energy of giving and receiving. This is a powerful conversation. And week 4 is create your own dream team. I have a dream team of people. Part of them are in the Living in Gratitude Today community, and another part of them are just people that I've known for a long time who, number 1, call me on my stuff, and number 2, who remind me that the universe has my back. That anytime I'm in a challenging situation, it doesn't matter because I always find a way out. And then week 5 is all about celebrating the, the Casey, celebrate good times. Come on, I won't sing too, but so celebrating the good things and really, really taking the time out to celebrate them and acknowledge what all the gifts that you receive and all the great things that you do. So we're going to celebrate and we're going to have a great time together. So more reasons to say yes. Number 1, you'll be in a private Facebook group and you'll have people that you get to share your successes with, and you'll have people that you get to say, look, I was really in a bad space today. What are some things that you do when you're in this space that I'm in? You'll get a one-on-one call with me, and the power of that is that the minute we do that one-on-one call, you start to see where the class actually begins, because you start to see where the small shifts you can make, and I'm pretty good at that, and tapping into what needs to happen so that we're able to find those magical moments even in the challenging times. It's a hands-on course, and course was built and developed so that you build and you develop that gratitude muscle, and you have a place that you get to keep all of your gratitude wins. It's online, so you don't even need to get dressed. You can do it in the comfort of your own home. It's going to be once a week, and this is also, I did this deliberately, and that way you have time in between sessions to process what you learn. So if I do it, a 5-hour class, that's great. But what's even better is that, okay, so today we're going to talk about gratitude myths, and I'm going to give you some tools to tap into gratitude right now, because we've already dispelled the myths. Here's how we can make them work. Week 2 is about the power of our words. So we'll have an exercise on watching how we speak. Week 3 is about the energy of giving and receiving. We'll have an exercise, and you'll have a whole week to practice. And then you'll have, the private Facebook group where you can talk to each other and see, again, what kind of things are working for you. Classes will be recorded. That's also very powerful for a couple of reasons. One, if you can't make the live, you can jump on the replay. And the other reason is that you may hear the call today and be in one particular space, but then if you listen to it again a day later or 2 days later, you're not in the same space. You're not the same person. You're hearing it a different way, and you'll pick up something different the next time you listen to it. And the last part is that every participant gets a gratitude bag, and that way you get to keep all of your gratitude wins in one space. And this tool is small enough that you could put it in your pocketbook, you could put it in your briefcase, you could leave it in your car, and it serves as a visual reminder while you're on the go. So how can you say yes? How can you join? And I know that you're asking, what is the price? So if you have not yet seen my easy card, you can either text the word grateful to 64600, and you'll see the link where it says Kickoff 2020 in gratitude. So what is the cost? Because I know that you know that there is a cost. So the price of this would normally be $497. I have it listed on my website for $197, but because you're on this call tonight, it is only $97. And the code that you get to do, so if you text the word grateful to 64600, I'll also put the link in the email so you can go directly there. But it's great to have this easy card. It's a fun way to stay in touch. And you're going to go and use the code ACTNOW. So that code will be valid for a couple of days, and it will give you this class for $97. If you are in the Living in Gratitude Take community, and you know that you are because you get my emails every Sunday, you get my emails every Wednesday, this code is not for you. If you are in the Living in Gratitude Today community, the price for you to take this class is only $49. And I know some of you are going, what? But I want you to understand something. As part of my community, you get bonuses. As part of my community, you're giving me the gift of doing what I love to do and wake up to, and giving me the gift of waking up every day excited because I get to do what I love to do. So my way of saying thank you is by giving you a gift and giving you this class, because you already know this stuff works, for $49. So some of you are asking the question, I can hear it already. Smile, what if I want to be part of the movement? Will you still honor that price? And the answer is yes, because truthfully, my goal this year is to have 1,000 people in the movement. Because when we start to tap into what works in our lives, when we start to feel happy and joyful and excited, we're creating that ripple effect in our community. And everywhere you go, that's what you get to create for people. So the answer is absolutely yes. So we have the code ACT NOW for that, and I will share with you as well. The way you become a gratitude gangster is by going to livingingratitude.com/join. Join the movement. It's $7 a month. And I did that on purpose. I did that so that you did not have to make a choice between food or your health, your mental health. Because really, when we tap into gratitude again, it's about feeling better and feeling more joyful. So that's a couple of things that you can do. So I would love to have you part of this movement. I would love to have you in this class. It's a 5-week class, and we're going to really explore how to use these concepts and how to use these tips so that by the time the 5 weeks is over, you're going to feel like a different person. Because I can tell you now, the more I practice, the stronger my gratitude practice is. And it's not just about waking up and saying, today's going to be a great day. That's where I start. But when I can tap into, all those things that work, I'm going to share with you. I thought I was recording this very video, when I was doing the live class with everybody else. But this video is being recorded after the fact. And I had a choice. Do I go, oh my God, the whole call was horrible, nothing worked because I didn't record? Or I say, you know what? It is what it is. I screwed up. I thought I hit the record button. It didn't record, and I get to do it over. Had I not been in the space of gratitude, had I not been practicing what I preach, I might have gotten really upset, and that would have been kind of sad, right? So there's so many ways that you can join us, but please, for $97, it's a no-brainer. It's less than $20 a week, where you get to really tap in and explore and spend an hour on yourself, giving back to yourself. And if you're part of the Living in Gratitude Today community, it will only be $49. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you got something out of it. I would love to hear what you've learned, what tips and techniques you're going to take. And I look forward to having you all in the class on March 2nd. It will be every Monday in the month of March. And like I said, we'll have a private Facebook group. You'll have opportunities to interact with each other. It will be not just theory. We will also have things that you can do so that you're tapping into that space on a regular basis. I look forward to being your partner in gratitude. I look forward to having you as gratitude gangsters. And again, thank you so much for watching this replay. And thank you for being part of my life and part of my community. Bye, everyone.